Welcome to Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston, PhD. Glenn has held his doctorate in psychology for more than 30 years and is also a former multi-million-dollar consultant to the big food industry and uses his experience to help you defeat your cravings. This show will help you to focus on dramatically reducing cravings and leave the diet mentality behind, so you can more easily and effortlessly achieve your health, fitness, and body composition goals. Please remember, no doctor-patient relationship is created via this show, and you are responsible for confirming any changes to your diet, health, or psychological routines with an appropriately licensed professional before implementing them. Now, before we get started, if you haven't yet downloaded the free smartphone app to access dozens of these recordings all in one place, as well as to avail yourself of a confidential community for support, motivation, and assistance, please visit the podcast link on defeatyourcravings.com as soon as possible. And now, here's your host, Dr. Glenn Livingston.
Hey, it's the very good Dr. Glenn Livingston, and I'm here with a nice lady named Leslie. That's her name, even though I called her something else before. Leslie's agreed to share this interview with you so you could learn a little bit more and benefit from her strength and wisdom and experience and hope, as well as her trials and tribulations and struggles and falls, right?
Exactly.
Tell me a little bit about your story before you found us.
Sure. So I've been binge eating my whole life, as long back as I can remember, just always finding every opportunity to eat as much as I can, hiding, sneaking away, hiding food. As soon as I got my driver's license, I remember just driving off and just getting as much as I could at the Dunkin' Donuts and whatever I could get. And then it just never really stopped. And so I've been struggling with it my whole life. And I've only been able to stop binge eating for very short amounts of time. And then I would just go back to my usual binge eating.
Gotcha. And what have you tried to fix it over the years?
Oh, I have tried everything. I mean, I've definitely done the calorie counting, but ultimately what ends up happening is once I start having something that starts to be so delicious that I can't stop, and then I just use it as a gateway to continue on to have that food in large quantities and then other wider array of foods in large quantities, and then it just never stops. And then it turns into, well, I'll just get it all in today and I'll start fresh tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and goes and I'll start tomorrow. And then here I am, I'm in my 40s and I've been doing this for the most of my life, and it just never has seemed to stop. I continue to binge eat and gain a lot of weight back that I had lost. So I decided to do the online intensive, and I'm really glad I did, because when I did, I really decided, okay, this is the time. And I am so glad, because what it did was it made me do these writing exercises, and it made me really delve into these mental focus exercises that made me really realize that there are things that I can do now every minute of the day that can change my life and really just change the direction. And I don't have to live my life this way, and I don't have to be miserable for the rest of my life. And I can really live the life I want to live and live this life that I've been dreaming of having my whole life. The only person that can do that is me. And so with this online intensive, that has actually happened.
I think that's just wonderful. What was it about the intensive that did that in particular? Something you heard, something you did? What made the difference?
I liked the refutations, because a few of the refutations were things that really were things that were holding me back, such as I'll just start tomorrow, but talking about the neural pathways, just reinforcing that I'll start tomorrow, doing that every single day, just reinforce that bad behavior, and knowing that that would make it harder for me to get it together eventually. Reinforcing that with the refutations, that helped me really get it together in my head that I'm not doing myself any favors by adding one day or one half day to my binge, or other things such as I can stop now. I don't have to start over tomorrow. I can stop after this binge. It doesn't have to go to the end of the day or the end of the week. And these are things that they seem simple, but when you do the refutations, they really come to light. And also the things like I have tried and failed so many times. One of the refutations was, I've failed so many times before. What's this going to be any different? How is this going to be any different than the last 3,000 times that I have tried and failed so disappointingly? And the reality is, as we learned in the program, you don't tell children that they're never going to learn something, and I shouldn't tell myself that I'm never going to learn something new. You have to keep trying, and we learn something new every day. And these are the exercises that really reinforce these concepts that I don't think I've ever received anywhere else.
It's wonderful. Did you stumble or fall at any point?
I did. There was only one time that I did have a binge, and it was only for about 10 minutes. I was in the office, and there is a lot of pig slop that is in on the tables that I actually order for the office. And every other single day, I avoid it. I haven't wanted it since I started the program. It doesn't appeal to me, as one of the expressions was, it's not my food. That's not for me. That's not of interest to me. I can do better than that. I'd rather have a nutritious meal instead of this pig slop. There was a particularly stressful day, and I elected to make that choice, and I broke my rule. And my rule is I will never, ever again have sweets, because once I have a sweet, that is my gateway to a binge extravaganza, as I say. But you know what I learned? I learned that after having this pig slop in the office, it does not mean that I'm now going to go home and order delivery dinner and delivery dinner part two, and then continue on the next morning and the next afternoon and the next evening. And so even though I did have a mistake, I stopped it after that 10-minute binge on pig slop in the office.
And you stopped that because you'd previously written a refutation that said, if you take one bite, you fall into another world and you have to keep going, or?
Yes, because before it was, well, once you ruin your day, you might as well continue and start tomorrow. But one of the refutations I believe I wrote was, every minute is a chance to stop at any time. As you always say, now, you can stop now, you can stop now. And so I decided I can stop now. And I did. And I went home and I had a nutritious meal. And I just didn't concern myself with it. I didn't let it get me down. I started anew. And it didn't even upset my progress, because I continued to exercise later that evening. I didn't use it as an excuse to skip my exercise or to not exercise the next day. I really just continued on as usual. That was absolutely something that in the past, if I had a binge at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on pig slop, there would be zero chance of me ever having anything nutritious for dinner. It would have been pig slop for at least the next 3 days. That would have been an impossibility.
So you discovered that you can always use the present moment to be healthy, no matter what you did 5 minutes ago.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And you were able to stop a moving train in its tracks.
Yes.
That's probably the most important insight. People no longer feel powerless. They no longer feel like it's one mistake means that all is lost, and they're able to mitigate the damage like that. Then it's only a matter of time before they stop making the mistakes in the first place. So that's wonderful. Is there anything else that was helpful to you about the program, or anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, the logic behind the program was something that there is really no other system out there that really breaks down the logic of what we're doing to ourselves. The binge eating and just the greater concepts, and then drilling down into these concepts that are in the book and then in the exercises of why all this self-talk, or your daily refutations, or the refutations that you have, and how we talk ourselves out of making the right choices. These are things that I've never seen anywhere else. And in some ways they're so simple, yet how have I never seen these elsewhere? And I really appreciated these, because I generally have so much discipline in my life, everywhere else in my life, because even when I've been a binge eater, I will still go out and train for a marathon, yet I will binge eat and just carry the extra 40 pounds during the marathon. And I don't want to be that way. So even someone who has a lot of discipline like myself will still lack that discipline when it comes to binge eating. So I know it's not always about just discipline. There's another narrative in my head that tells me that my inner pig wants me to have that pig slop. And so the logic that we learn in the program about that inner pig and how to silence that inner pig was so helpful. And so anytime I had that urge to have pig slop, that's the inner pig. We're going to silence the inner pig. We're going to talk it through in our head and realize that we're not really hungry. We don't really need that pig slop. That's just the inner pig. Also, I liked talking about how much money I'm saving, even with how much the program costs. It is almost infinitesimal to how much I was spending with food delivery. I live in a big city, and with the amount of money that you spend on a single meal after delivery charges, upcharges, and tip, it's incredible. A single meal would cost me $40, and during a binge, I would do that 3 to 4 times a day. I mean, that's an incredible amount of money. What a waste of money, not to mention the damage I'm doing to my body. So there's no question the value.
And the time it takes to recover.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely something that puts money and time into your life rather than taking money and time out of your life. But what's really funny is that people don't really believe that before they do this. There are people who said they heard everybody said they saved all this money and time, and they actually have more money and time than they did before. But you talk to someone who's still binging and they just don't believe it, and they think that, oh, they're just trying to make money, they're just trying to steal my time. It's really funny that people think that. I mean, it's not funny. It's a manifestation of binge thinking to facilitate continuing to binge. But it's kind of sad that it doesn't matter. I could bring a parade of people up who said that, and when someone's in the middle of binging, they still don't believe it. It's hard. Okay, is there anything you wanted to say that you didn't get to say?
I think I've said it all, but I love the program. I'm so glad I did the online intensive. I have no regrets. It's worth way more than I paid. I think it's absolutely worth it. I would encourage anybody who has any thoughts about whether they really need to dedicate their lives to getting this under control. I would really encourage anybody to do it, because I mean, I'm in my 40s. I've been struggling with this my entire life. And this is absolutely, without a question, the longest time I've gone without a binge. I don't even know. I don't think I've ever gone so long without a binge in my entire life. Usually the longest time was a week or so. And I'm many months in, so I'm feeling really good.
Beautiful. And how do you know this is going to last? How do you know this isn't just another diet?
Because now I have the tools and the logic that was missing before. I didn't have the logic, and also some of the science about what we are trying to do in our heads when we want to go have that pig slop, because our brains want us to have that pig slop to keep us fat and happy and sitting on the sofa for our own selfish reasons. And so that's not information I had before. So that's the tool I have. I also know that I have all my writing materials that if I find myself at any point going back to my old habits, I can go back and do these writing exercises or go back to what I wrote before. Because now I've had so much success for such a long period of time, now I know that this is possible because I've had such a success. It's not impossible. It's completely liberating to live a life where my whole life is, how fast can I get home to order my delivery food? I would order delivery food before I even got home because I was so desperate to get my pig slop in my mouth as soon as possible, as soon as I got home from work. So I don't miss the desperation. I don't miss the sadness, all those awful emotions that I felt with a lifetime of binge eating and desperation to get pig slop into my mouth all day long. I can't go back to that way. And now I have the tools to keep those horrible, horrible habits away from me. And I don't want to go back. The energy and how great I feel, it's incredible. I've never felt this way. I'm almost 42. I've never felt so great. And I don't even know how I can feel better at 42 than I felt at 20. But the reality is, because at 20, I was binge eating. The reality is at 30, I was binge eating. It's because now almost 42, it's because I've gone so long without binge eating after this program. It's truly incredible. And I would have done it another way.
Now you can get on with living for the last 2/3 of your life, right?
Exactly.
So very good. Very good. Is there any way I can help you before we go?
No, I think I'm great. I'm really glad to be on here today.
I think you're great too. Well, I hope you have a lovely weekend. Thank you again.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And that brings us to the end of today's broadcast of Defeat Your Cravings, hosted by Dr. Glenn Livingston. Now, if you'd like to find out more about the products and services Dr. Glenn offers to help you dramatically reduce your cravings and stop overeating in 90 days or less, please visit defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. That's defeatyourcravingscoaching.com. Thanks.